Found footage, found footage, found footage. There's enough found footage films to fill a dirty old pool because most of them are shit. Get it? Dirty pool, shit, dirty, shit. Haha. Alright. Last time I talked about found footage, I reviewed all the 6 Paranormal Activity films and the crazy ideas it brought to the table and the horror genre as a whole, as well as in the found footage category. But there are a lot of underrated ones that don't get as much attention as The Blair Witch Project or Wreck. How about a film that takes a bold new direction, one that can convince audiences that what they're seeing is real, but keep to the style of that sorta B-movie quality? Well, join me on this quest, because I'm taking you to the greatest television paranormal show in history. If you're ready, it's time to have some grave encounters. Yeah, that's literally what the intro to the show says, so don't look at me funny. But anywho, Grave Encounters is, I'm just gonna say this right now, is one of my favorite found footage movies ever. Yes, ever. And I'll get to it in a minute, but this film tends to go more into a documentary style movie, at least in the beginning, with a man named Jerry Hartfield conducting an interview about a film crew who went missing back in 2003 after shooting their 6th episode of their paranormal reality show, Grave Encounters. The footage was found 7 years later and conducted into what would be the final episode of Grave Encounters. The movie was filmed in an actual mental institution, the Riverview Hospital in British Columbia. This isn't the only movie to shoot here. Several other TV shows and movies were shot there, such as Supernatural, The X-Files, Arrow, Elf, Smallville, Prison Break, Riverdale, and most recently, Deadpool 2. So this building has a big history in the film industry. It also has a big history of its own, but I won't go into detail about it. In Grave Encounters, they acknowledge that this is a mental institution, but it was run by a mad doctor, Dr. Frederick, who would perform rituals and exorcisms and a whole bunch of crazy shit until he was jumped and killed by a bunch of inmates. But that's that. And now, on to the main reason I love this film so much, and goes on my list of most beloved found footage films. The characters. Yes, I love every single one of them. Well, the film crew of Grave Encounters, not the other jabronis. First, we have Lance Preston, the main character, my man. He's so devoted into his work and stops at nothing to catch the paranormal. Even when shit goes wrong, he's always filming his good-looking face. But yeah, Lance is a great found footage character. Always delivering those one-liners to the camera.
It's a crazy story. Let's go check it out. Very creepy.
Then there's Sasha, who's very short compared to the other characters. Whenever she's filming, the men are shot from like their chest up and look like giants. But she's the screamer for this movie. We all need that sort of stuff in there. Matt is the camera operator and the Miles Tales per hour of the group, but he's a goofy and funny character who gets fucked up in the head towards the end of the movie. Then there's the fake medium, Houston Gray, who pretends to be a psychic but is really just doing it for the show. It does a good job of making the show more realistic though, because that's what most of these shows do nowadays. But when shit goes wrong, and the fact that he keeps making up excuses to solve the problem is hilarious. But he's really just scared out of his pants, and for the benefit of the show and Lance's sake, tries to stay in character but really can't. Then last, but certainly not least, there's T.C. Gibson. I love this guy. He wasn't good enough to make it into the poster, but he has a big part in the movie. He's the more rational one. All he wants to do is to get the hell out. Eat, sleep, and be home with his wife and daughter. He has multiple funny meltdowns. What happens to him in this movie is like the worst part of the whole film, and it's not really explained very well. Houston's death is the funniest. And there you have the Grave Encounters crew, the main reason I love this movie so much. The rest consists of cheap B-movie effects to get the audience scared out of their pants. Maybe that worked for some people, but it certainly didn't work for me. I always laugh every time I see these goofy looking faces, mainly because they're, well, stupid, but also because of the characters' reactions to seeing them. But the movie does have some very creepy moments that get under your skin. But hell, if I wanted to, I could compile this whole review of moments from the film crew and why I love this movie. They're at each other's throats the whole time and argue a lot. It's brilliant.
What does that fucking say? What the fuck is going on?
Maybe it's just an exit down to the, like this way to the emergency
Houston,
exit.
shut the fuck up.
Don't
Shut the fuck up.
What time is it, Sash? 8:34.
You gotta be fucking kidding. Fuck. I told you that fucking other gig at 8:34. Shit, fuck, I have an audition tomorrow. No one cares about you and your queer inside the faggot studio shit.
All right. Why don't we try going down to the tunnels? Okay, Kenny said the tunnels connect all the buildings together, then maybe we can find a way out through one of the other buildings.
You looking to see the Great Wall of China?
There could be an electric anomaly that has actually moved our clocks faster or something so that, you know, it's actually not really 8:30, but it's only 6:30. That would explain why it's still dark out and why, you know, Kenny hasn't shown up.
Electrical anomaly.
It's fucking retarded. Set the fast you got to run. Let's go. What the fuck is that?
Jesus Christ. If we get that kind of thing again, man, you're fucking making millions.
I said cook my dinner, bitch.
Now, as for the ending, I didn't really like it that much. I'm glad Lance was still alive by the end, but the movie dragged with just him as the last survivor after Matt committed suicide and Sasha disappears into smoke. It never really explains what happened to her either, just like what happened to TC. But Lance loses his sanity and goes insane, eating rats and laughing like a lunatic. The movie loses its cool for me every time I get up to this point. I like to consider this movie in 3 parts. The first part as a documentary style movie, which I love, when they interview all those people and pay a guy to say something creepy about the place. It gets a good feel to a more realistic film. The second half is when they're investigating the hospital and the film just decides to drop the realistic nature and go to the B-movie style, which I'm fine with too because the characters deliver the performance of being scared shitless and making me laugh my ass off. Only does the third half lose me. Could have done better without all that nonsense, but nevertheless, Grave Encounters is a fun found footage movie. I've watched this film more than any other found footage movie. Now, if it's my favorite is still up for debate. The characters, the scares, the goofy B-movie effects is a delight to me, and hopefully they do a story about the 5 other episodes they shot for the show. I mean, come on, they could make a big trilogy to this like they did with Paranormal Activity. I don't know about you, but I am definitely ready to have some Grave Encounters.